Thank you for joining us today for our panel discussion on the DVSA's Earned Recognition Scheme and compliance management. Before I introduce the panel, I'm just going to run through a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to be running a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, which will give you the opportunity for us to answer your specific questions. If you want to ask those questions throughout the session, you can do that by going to the Q&A bar at the bottom of your screen. If you put your cursor over the screen, it comes up, and then if you click on the Q&A, you'll be able to post your question there. So we will answer all those questions at the end of the session. There will also be a feedback survey, which we'd really appreciate if you could fill that in. This gives us obviously your thoughts on how we performed today, and if there's any information you require following this session. So I'm going to now introduce each of our panelists. They're going to just introduce themselves and give you a bit of background about what they do and who they are. So we're going to start with Phil. So Phil Breen, do you want to say hello and just give us a bit of background?
Thanks, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Phil Breen. I'm from DVSA. I look after the Earned Recognition Scheme on behalf of DVSA. I've been with the organisation for about 16 years now, worked in most divisions across DVSA. So yeah, thank you for having me here today. And of course, I'm here to talk to you through the Earned Recognition Scheme.
Great, thank you, Phil. So Olivia.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm the first point of contact at AssetGo, so I look after all of the online administration, all of the client onboarding, and all of the training and support.
Great. Matt.
Morning, everyone. I'm the Commercial Director at AssetGo. My role is predominantly to take on board the feedback and issues our customers experience, and then work closely with our support and development teams, understand and address these sort of issues, and generally improve the system and assist in developing new and helpful features.
Great. Okay, so the format of today's webinar is a panel discussion. So I'm going to be asking a few questions to each of the panelists to get their views, and hopefully they'll inform us on some of the areas that you want to hear about. So I'm going to start off with the first question I've got, which is for Phil. So what is earned recognition, and how does it benefit organisations?
Right, so earned recognition, I think I should probably go back to how it was born and what it came about. It was really driven by industry, to be honest with you. We were being asked quite a lot at DVSA, and also DFT were being asked, what does good look like? I think as an enforcement agency, of course, we target our resource towards those that are getting it wrong, and I think rightfully so. But in the same instance, industry want to know, am I doing it right? Am I going that extra mile? I think a lot of people want to be the best at what they do. And for us to recognise that, we needed a concept, we needed a scheme in which we could recognise those exemplar operators. And that's where earned recognition was built from. And it's just that, it literally does what it says on the tin. Earned recognition. You've earned the right to be an exemplar operator. You've earned the right to get special benefits from DVSA and also from the wider industry. So in a nutshell, earned recognition is basically a scheme that recognises the exemplar. The way in which you do that is you would apply for earned recognition as a scheme to become an operator within earned recognition space. So you would feed us through KPIs, you would have an audit once every 2 years, and as a result of that, you don't get targeted at the roadside, you don't get those visits, you don't get someone knocking at your door suddenly want to look at your vehicles and pull apart your records unannounced or anything like that. You get support from a dedicated earned recognition team. So my team are there to support earned recognition operators, not just through the scheme, but also for any other questions they may have, about driver's hours, maintenance, whatever it may be. You get invited along to exclusive workshops, summits, training events, all free of charge. The scheme, of course, is free to join, and all the benefits that come with it are free to join as well. You're also at the front of the queue when it comes to any kind of benefits from wider DFT or industry, like I say. So during COVID-19, DVSA had to set down testing for a period of time. That was due to government guidelines, so we were unable to test. To deal with that, earned recognition operators, all their vehicles and all their trailers were given a year's exemption MOT. Anyone that's dealt with DFT, I can assure you they don't give away money quite easily. I can assure you. You want to see the forms I've got to fill out just to get a pen. So to give that, it was a big ask, but that's because they really recognise that earned recognition operators are the exemplar in the industry. They are going that extra mile. They are putting in the effort. So it's literally that. You report some KPIs every 4 weeks, and it's only what's required of your operator license. So we're looking at things like your walk round checks, your driver's hours, working time directive, test rate and pass rate at time of test, that type of thing. So only really asking what we would expect from an operator, but just focusing it into these KPIs every 4 weeks. And like I say, as a result of that, you get numerous benefits that are continuing to grow.
Yeah. So what types of operator is earned recognition really suitable for?
It's open to all, to be honest with you. We've got operators of all shapes and sizes. It's across HGV and PSV. DVSA Earned Recognition is unique in that. And we do have operators right across the board. So we've got large scale operators, your household names with multinational licenses, and then we've got one-man bands as well. It is really open to the all because it's got the same characteristics that we would expect from all operators, and that's safety and compliance. That's where recognition starts from. That's where it ends. It's safety and compliance. So to answer your question, it's open to all. If you're an operator, it's for you.
Yeah. And so how difficult is it to become a earned recognition operator?
It's quite straightforward, to be honest with you. I mean, the good thing that, and certainly the feedback we get from our operators and them joining the scheme, is they get a lot of support and help. You'll have support and help from your IT supplier, so such as AssetGo. And you also get support and help from myself and my team. So we really talk an operator through the process. So it's literally filling out an online application. Again, don't worry, it's not in depth. We're not there to try and pick you apart, and that information on that application form doesn't go any wider than my team. I'm not sharing that with anyone else in DVSA. So if we're asking you for some driver's hours information and you're a bit worried that, didn't have the best month last month, don't worry, it doesn't go beyond my team. It's literally just there for us to assess where you are as an operator, give you any guidance and help that you may need, and then once that application stage has gone through, we'll speak with you. You'll arrange an audit. So an audit will be carried out. Now that can be carried out in person or online. We've got a selection of online providers. They're all listed on gov.uk. So you've got a real choice of who you use. We don't dictate to you. And then you just make sure that you've got the IT systems in place that can report the KPIs. And that's it. It's a straightforward process. It's not onerous on the operator. It does simplify everything for you. It focuses you both as an operator and also focuses your drivers and transport managers and maintenance providers.
Okay. So as far as auditing, will businesses be audited more after signing up? Matt, do you want to give me your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Phil probably as already mentioned, it's a lot less actually. There's no, because as an operator, if you're following the guidelines of earned recognition, there's much less need for an inspector to come over and go through books, go through paperwork, check vehicles, things like that, as you would probably normally expect. And the great thing about being on earned recognition with AssetGo is that it's all digital, so it's all in one place. Which subsequently means, I think I'm right in saying this, Phil, that it means you actually get audited a lot less than you would if you were earned recognition.
Definitely. We only require you to have an audit at the point of application and then once every 2 years. Now, most operators that I speak to, they're getting an audit carried out once a year anyway, so you can actually reduce that. And Matt's completely right. In terms of the KPIs, they kind of run themselves, to be honest with you. They will report themselves. So as long as you're sticking to those KPIs, of which, like I said, if you're an operator license holder, it's only the requirements of your operator license anyway. We're not asking you to do anything extra. We're just asking you to report them to us. And by the way, we don't get an in-depth report, and I'm sure we'll expand on that anyway. We're only alerted if there's been an issue and you've not met that KPI. So the audit, like I say, it's once at the point of application, then once every 2 years, but you're not getting any of the DVSA checks. So your vehicles aren't stopped at the roadside. You're not having to deal with any of that. It's follow-ups, interviews. You're not having to deal with the inspections or visits to your sites as well. So in terms of time, you're saving a lot of time in the long run.
Okay. So you touched on this, Phil, but it'd be good to get Matt's view. As far as operator data is concerned, and how much is shared and what do the DVSA actually get visibility of? Matt, obviously it'd be good to get your views on that from an AssetGo perspective.
Yeah, so the Earned Recognition DVSA, they don't actually get any company information at all. So they don't get details about the fleet, the drivers. None of that information is required to be sent. So essentially anything that is in AssetGo is secure. It's your company's data, it's your personal information. All that is saved, and only you as an operator can view that information. The data that's sent to Earned Recognition is simply the KPIs, and of which there are 5. And it's essentially like a dashboard. So imagine like an Excel table. It specifies on that table for a specific 4-week period a percentage. So if you are 100% on one of those KPIs, it will just state that, and that's the information that's received by the DVSA. If you are, 98% on that for one of those periods, that's what's sent to the DVSA. And it is literally just that information. There's nothing else that's sent, no vehicle information, no driver information, just those KPI percentages.
Okay, that's really interesting, because it's obviously quite a big concern for many operators.
Yeah.
So as far as resources are concerned, what resources will need to be required to become a earned recognition operator? What will they need? Matt, sorry, do you want to answer that?
Nothing specifically. I mean, if you're an AssetGo customer already, or you're thinking of coming on board with AssetGo and becoming earned recognition, it's simply just using the system. It was the way it was intended, the way it's been designed by operators that we've worked with over the years. And essentially, if you're just doing what you would be doing on a day-by-day basis, you're getting defects from drivers and appropriately sort of actioning those. You're making sure that your vehicles are roadworthy, and if they're not, then they're not on the road. Things like that, and it automatically just sort of builds within AssetGo. There's nothing additional that you need to do. It's just all automated. It runs in the background, and you can see that at any point of any day, you just log into the system, and it will literally just tell you how well you're performing for that current period. And also the great thing is that you have time as well. The information isn't sent straight to earned recognition at the end of the period. So you do have a sort of 8-week period of time after that sort of period's ended to make sure you've got all your documentation, make sure that all your PMIs are in order and signed off and things like that. So it's not sort of an onerous task. It's just stuff that you'd be doing day to day, logging it in the system, and it's just sent to the recognition. So it really couldn't be any simpler.
And sorry, if I may just say as well, it's not a case of if there's an issue with one of the KPI information that suddenly you're kicked out of earned recognition, or we come round mob-handed or anything like that. That's not the case. This is very much about a partnership working. There's not such a thing as a perfect operator. If everyone was a perfect operator, there probably wouldn't be the DVSA enforcement, and I probably wouldn't have a job. I quite like having a job, so it's a good thing that there are the few rogues out there. But mistakes will happen. You're dealing with vehicles, you're dealing with drivers, you're dealing with other road users, you're dealing with your maintenance provider. There's various parties involved. Something is going to go wrong at some point. That's just the nature of the beast. But what we're looking for really is not that something's never going to go wrong, but actually you've done all that you can do to make sure something doesn't go wrong, and also that you react to that in the correct way, and that you can put measures in place to make sure it doesn't happen again, or reduce that risk as much as you possibly can. And working with your provider and us will help you to do that.
Okay. And so what KPIs are monitored, Matt?
So there's 5 in total, and as Phil mentioned, it's pretty much the stuff that bolts onto the sort of operator license, really. So the first one is a complete set of safety inspection records. So that would be your daily walk around checks, your PMIs, things like that, just making sure that they're all in the system. Now, AssetGo allows you to add your PMIs in 2 different ways. You can either do them digitally via the system on the app, or you can upload, for the time being at least, a paper copy of that PMI. And so long as it's sort of all registered in the system, then that first sort of KPI is always ticked off. The second one is that all inspections are sort of completed accurately and correctly. And again, that's down to the person that performs the maintenance on this. And then ultimately, appropriately second signed off by the authorising sort of, depot manager or, company administrator. Number 3 is that all inspections are completed within the required frequency. So those of you that are familiar with PMIs, you'll know that depending on the vehicle, you might need a PMI every 6 weeks, every 10 weeks, every 12 weeks. And it's just ensuring that you actually make sure that you do that PMI within that time frame. And if you don't do that, again, that's not a problem, that you just show that you've appropriately actioned that. So maybe making the vehicle VOR and obviously not using the vehicle until it does have a valid PMI. Point 4 is that all driver defects are reported and appropriately actioned. So again, whenever a driver reports a defect via a daily walk around check, day to day, running the business, you're going to be actioning those appropriately anyway. And that would be within AssetGo, be moving it to monitored or resolving the issue, obviously once it has been rectified. So again, just performing the standard day-to-day tasks that you would be doing within AssetGo would tick the boxes for all these things. And then finally, you've got number 5, which is the MOTs have a sufficient pass rate. So again, if you're performing your PMIs and your drivers are doing their diligence while they're doing their daily checks, reporting defects and things are getting fixed, and ultimately vehicles aren't on the road that are damaged or whatever, you will be passing those MOTs anyway, because every 6 weeks you're having an inspection done. There's no reason why it wouldn't pass an MOT if it's passing an inspection every 6 weeks. And I think you probably agree with this, Phil, that all these criteria put together, it's essentially saying that if we take your company or your any vehicle from your fleet, it would pass an MOT, and that's essentially what it is. So yeah, nothing out of the ordinary, really.
Yeah. So would you back that, Phil?
Yeah, completely. Like I said, and like Matt's expanded on it, it's what's required of your operator license. If you hold an operator license and look at your terms and conditions, that's where we built these KPIs from. It was built from the operator license. So it's just focusing you to make sure that actually you're adhering to what you've agreed to do anyway. And that is all built around safety and compliance. The point of these KPIs, we've not invented them because we thought, well, that'll be fun. They've come from safety and compliance. We all want safer roads. We all want safer drivers. We want safer vehicles. And the way that you can do that is to make sure that you maintain that on a daily basis and not just, once in a while. That's where the KPIs are built from.
Yeah. So if I want to, let's say I want to sign up to earn recognition, how difficult is it set up within the system within AssetGo? Matt, do you want to give us?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, really. I mean, like I said, the stuff you're doing day to day in AssetGo anyway is everything that's there. So it's really just a case of enabling that part of the system. And obviously Olivia and her support team, she would be the person that would guide you through that. So Olivia, I don't know if you want to just explain a little bit about how that works from an operator's point of view.
Yeah, so if you're already an AssetGo customer, all we need to do is just identify which vehicles in your fleet were classes in scope, turn them on, and just turn on the earned recognition dashboard, which will then appear on the dashboard on the system for you. Yeah,
and I think it's worth mentioning as well that we can actually turn on the earned recognition dashboard as a sort of part of the run-up to becoming earned recognition, so that you can actually see how you would perform before actually committing to sending any information. But I think a lot of people that have done that would quickly see that actually that most of the things that they're doing qualify them anyway and would be fine. And as Phil said, it's not about being perfect. It's not about a ton of bricks coming down on you if you get something wrong. It's just to see where you're at and looking at ways that you can improve as an operator.
Yeah. And so how much time will it take to set up within AssetGo? Olivia, do you want to give us your?
So once I've turned all of the relevant vehicles on and obviously the dashboard, it takes roughly 30 days for the dashboard to appear once the relevant data has been stored in the system, and then I believe it's roughly about 3 months before the information is sent across to DVSA.
Okay. And so what additional time will it take up once it goes live within the system within AssetGo? Matt, what's your thoughts on that?
None at all. I mean, again, just day-to-day running of a business, of a fleet, it automatically does everything in the background. So it doesn't take any additional time whatsoever to run earned recognition. You know, I suppose there are elements of this where you might want to be, you know, obviously improve. That's the whole goal of this, is to be better at what you're doing, and using the features that we have available within the system. You know, may take a little bit more time if that's what you're wanting to do, but ultimately just running your business through AssetGo will ensure that you meet those requirements.
Okay, would you back that, Olivia?
Yeah, just a bit, obviously, a bit of extra learning taken to understand what the KPIs mean. But apart from that, the system basically just does it all for you. I mean, obviously, you've got the, you know, the KPIs in front of you, they're visible on a day-to-day basis. So you could spend a bit of extra time ensuring that you're being compliant. But as far as it goes, there's really not much, time needed to do anything.
Okay. And so from a cost perspective, what's the cost for setting earned recognition up in AssetGo, Matt?
Well, the cost for setting up an AssetGo is free of charge. The same can't be said for some of our competitors, where they do make a charge for this. But ultimately, we've already put the effort and the time in to develop the system to be earned recognition approved. And so why not get our customers using it and benefiting from it? The benefits of the scheme are worth it enough for us to not make a charge. It shouldn't be a thing that's charged for. It should be something that operators see the benefit of, request access to it and to get it set up, and then it should be nice, easy, straightforward ride to becoming earned recognition and improving themselves as an operator.
Okay, so where have you seen AssetGo customers benefit from earned recognition, Matt?
I think the biggest benefits are the time savings. So where you've got let's say you've got a fleet of HGVs that are being stopped at the roadside, those stops can sometimes take an hour or so, even longer in some instances. So imagine you've got several hundred HGVs, all being pulled over X amount of time every month, every 6 months, every year. As soon as you take that out of the equation, the amount of time that's saved there is that that's another couple of journeys for any driver. So, and that's probably the biggest one from our perspective. But obviously, there's wider benefits to being part of the scheme anyway. Yeah.
I mean, just to throw this over to you, Phil, is the scheme cost effective? What kind of savings can be made, off the back of it?
It is. So I'll give you some examples, actually. Rather than me just witter on, I'll give you some actual examples from some of our operators and some of our customers. So, yeah, we've got an operator that, on the point that Matt said, operators aren't in earned recognition and not getting stopped at the roadside. They're not getting targeted. So that time saved across all your fleet every year is going to be huge. And when you're bidding for contracts or anything like that, if your competitor isn't in earned recognition and you are, you can specify that and say my vehicles are not going to be targeted at the roadside, or have random stops, which is only ever going to be a benefit. We've got operators where over a 3-year period they've saved £8,750. We've got other operators, over a 3-year period have saved £33,000. £12,000 per annum. Another operator was average savings of £7,500 per annum. So you are talking in the thousands.
Yeah.
And of course, as I mentioned about the MOT exemptions, now I don't think anyone's hoping for another global pandemic. I'm certainly not. But, operators in that time, because of the MOT exemptions, we're getting reports back of £150,000 saved. We've got others in the 1.2 million bracket, obviously larger scale operators. But these are huge, huge savings. Now, I can't say, obviously, there's going to be another global pandemic, and we're all hoping no, there won't be. But what it does show that actually at the front of any cost savings or any new initiatives that come from DFT, DVSA, or wider industry, earned recognition operators will be at the forefront of that. So as future savings come in, earned recognition operators will get the first service. I know that there's a lot of trials going on at the moment with DFT, lots of various subject matter being covered, and all of those are being trialed with earned recognition operators. They'll be the first to get those benefits. Same with apprentices. So DVSA have a number of apprentices that DVSA pay for. They are all in earned recognition premises. So you're basically getting members of staff that, of course, you train up, but they're free members of staff that DVSA are picking up the tab for when it comes to their wages. You know, these are real benefits when it comes to finances with operators, but of course they're saving the time as well. And I know it's difficult for operators to put a figure on that, but there is a lot of time saved. Also, just stress as well. You know, if you've got a DVSA standard operator visit that's booked in, I know people that, you know, it's all hands on deck for the week before. Don't have any of that. And if any of you are familiar with your OCRS score rating, and it's gone from green to amber, or dare I say it, amber to red, I know there's been many a sleepless night. You don't have that with earned recognition. You fall outside of OCRS score rating and you become a blue operator, and you stay at that. That doesn't fluctuate. So again, it's showing that you're exemplar. It's going above you know, what's required, as it were. You're showing you're the best at what you do. So yeah, I say there's finance savings, there's time savings, there's just mental health and stress savings as well. And I think we all want a bit of an easier life, don't we? But with the right outcome, and that's what earned recognition offers.
Yeah, no, great. And you back that up, Matt? I take it.
Say that again, sorry.
You back that up, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was about to add actually. Yeah, one of the other things, of course, is the audits. The amount of the amount of operators or time. I'm sure some of the guys on the call will be familiar with this. Going around, digging out pieces of paper, getting things ready for the inspector to see. If you're using earned recognition, with AssetGo, it's all already in AssetGo. So yes, you'll still get a visit once every 2 years, as Phil mentioned, but that you don't have to dig around finding bits of paper, because A, it's already all logged in one place on the system and can be accessed remotely. And B, all the KPI information, and just the KPI, again, reiterating that nothing else is sent, is already been over there. So long as you're, like I said, operating within the parameters, everything is fine, so there's no need for a big sort of audit and everything to be go through in lots of detail. As long as everything's done correctly and AssetGo helps you to do that, then you will simply just save time in that sense as well.
Yeah, okay. Definitely. And everything's in the public domain as well. Our audit standards are on gov.uk. It's a public document. Same as our IT spec and the KPI spec. All of this is in the public domain. So there's no surprises. There's nothing that's you're not going to be aware of or prepared for either.
Okay, that's great. All right, so we've got a few questions from the audience now, so we're going to move over to the Q&A. So I'll just read them out, and they've actually, the first couple have been they've actually named the person they want to answer, so that's always helpful. So Neil Buckley has asked Matt. He said, you said that at the moment you can upload paper copies of vehicle PMI. When does it change? So it must be done digitally via the system.
Phil can probably help with this one as well.
I was going to say, do you want me to take that one, Matt? So the current date that we've got in place is April 2022, where we would ask earned recognition operators to be fully digital. We are conversing currently about that date. I'm sure you appreciate the pandemic's had a huge impact on a lot of businesses that were developing and moving towards that date, and they've had to furlough staff and things like that. So we're taking all of that into consideration, but currently it's sitting at April 2022. But like I say, discussions are taking place at the moment to see if that date needs to move at all.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And the next question was from Edward Barnes. It's quite a long one, but a question to Phil. As discussed with AssetGo around moving towards a scheme regarding maintenance providers, firstly, within the first 4 months, we will be applying to join the scheme. My main concern is that I could have interpreted it wrong. Is required. So I'm trying to read this in the way it makes sense. Is the required moving forward? Would it be our maintenance provider to use our system AssetGo? I believe it has a staging date. So is this something, Matt, that you could decide there?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways at the moment. Obviously, it can be quite tricky because some larger operators especially use different maintenance providers, especially if they've got depots all over the country. They're not always going to use the same place to do their inspection. Now, what we have in place is the ability for maintenance providers to log into your system within AssetGo and perform the inspection digitally using the AssetGo app. Now, it would be up to the operator So you, Ed, it would be up to you to speak to your maintenance provider and ask them to make sure that they would be happy to use the AssetGo app to perform your PMIs. Now, I would say, honestly, about 95% of them are happy to do that. The only time we've had a bit of resistance is from main dealers, where like Mercedes, they'll have their own internal systems, and they're often, it goes against policy to use an external system to do the PMI digitally, which, understandably, we're not really going to be able to force the hand on that. But the private maintenance providers, especially, they're usually very open to it. And Olivia and her team, they can help you sort of explain how that works and get you set up so that you can essentially go to your maintenance provider and say, this is what you download, this is how you log in, and this is how you sort of fill in the digital inspection.
And if I can just jump in there as well, what we are also looking at is being able to take multiple feeds. So, for example, if you are getting that from your main dealer, the main dealer would be able to also feed in as well as yourselves as an operator. So we are looking at multiple feeds as well going forward.
Okay, so hopefully that's answered Edward's question. We've got another one from Isaac. Would the recognition smooth the ISO 14001 and 45001 audit process? So Matt, another one for you, I think, or actually for both of you, actually.
I'm not actually sure because I'm not familiar with that ISO. Is that one for you, Phil?
Yeah, it is. So we're reviewing our audit standards currently. So it's part of our annual summer review for the audit standards, and we're taking into account the ISO accreditations as well. So our audit standards already work towards the ISO, and we're looking at the latest features for that. And as we move towards recognition training and we move forward with that, we'll also see how that feeds into the ISO. So yes, as we review it, we're taking all of that into consideration.
Okay, great. So that's the final question we've had. If there are any more questions from the audience, if you'd like to ask them, obviously ask them very quickly because we're almost up now. But just to I guess wrap things up, this session is being videoed. So for anybody who wants to watch it again, if there's anything you want to recap on, we'll be sending a communication over the next couple of days just with a link to the video. Or if you'd like to pass it on to a colleague that may be interested, then you can do that also. I'd like to thank all the panelists for their time today, and I hope it's been useful for anyone who's listening in. I think it's been a really informative session, just like to wish everyone a good day.
There are actually a couple more questions.
Oh, there are. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
They've just come in.
Yeah, just come in.
Oh, great. Okay, so so we've got one here, which is an anonymous question. We have multiple sites across the country. Would all of these need to be audited if it was to apply for the earned recognition?
No, is a simple answer. We go with your main site, and then also depending on how many vehicles you've got, they may also need to look at one of your other sites. But no, but also as well, the audit can be also carried out remotely, so it can be done via Teams, Zoom, something like that, an online platform.
Okay, great. And the next one is how long do you need to be a green operator for?
Right, so what we ask for is that you've held an operator license under your legal entity for the last 2 years, and we ask that you have a 2 years worth of good compliance. Now, that may not necessarily mean that you're a green operator. We do have some operators that have joined that have been green amber, for example. We would look at the reasoning behind why you've fallen down from green. Is it an isolated incident? Is it something that potentially was outside of your control, or something where you identified was the issue and you've dealt with it quite quickly, but because maybe you haven't got a large fleet, it's been difficult for you to jump back into that green space? So for example, I can think of one where we had an operator where they failed at test because they changed their maintenance supplier. They weren't great, the maintenance supplier. They got rid of them straight away, changed, and they've not had any issues since. That's an isolated incident that you've dealt with quite quickly. That wouldn't stop you joining earned recognition. So we deal with it very much on a case-by-case basis. Like I say, you get that support and that help from my team. If you fill out the application form and move forward, we can get that level of detail and find out what those issues are and advise you and move forward with you.
Okay, so I've got a follow-up actually from Isaac. He's asking, furthermore to his previous question, we're a small business with 4 vans. Would this be beneficial for us as well? Could you summarise the benefits of being part of the scheme, please?
So is it a case of, sorry, are they falling outside of an operator license? Because to be an earned recognition operator, you do need to hold an operator license. So that would be my first point. We are looking to expand earned recognition to other parts of the industry. And as you can see, the Office of the Traffic Commissioner are doing some trials and some more work around light goods and van users. So I would say it's very much in a development, but by all means, drop us an email. You can send an email to dvsaer@dvsa.gov.uk. Go through kind of the specifics of your business, and then we can advise you what would be best, whether or not it's worth having those early conversations or, move forward. But yeah, drop us a line and then we can go through specifics with you would probably be best.
Great. Okay. So any more questions, anyone? I think we're leave it a few seconds. I've got another one. Brilliant. Okay. Just to be clear, this is from Edward Barnes. Just to be clear on the OCRS point, would MOT failures, etc., still be recorded on the OCRS reports?
Right, so MOT failures do not impact your OCRS score rating. Nothing impacts your OCRS score rating while you're in earned recognition. You stay as a blue operator. This is a different approach from DVSA. OCRS is a tool that DVSA created. Earned recognition is a scheme that we've created. So like I said before, the KPIs will monitor you. If there is an issue, we'll find out what that issue is. The good thing with earned recognition is we're not just looking at flat information or flat data. We've got the ability, you have a dedicated contact, you can pick up a phone, you can send an email, you can speak to someone, and we can realize what's taken place, what's happened. Oh, I failed because of X, Y, and Z. And we can work with you on that. So no, it doesn't impact on your OCRS score rating at all, even if you have a fail at MOT. Sorry, if you have a valid test even, sorry.
Yeah. All right. So let's leave it another few seconds, see if anybody else has any other questions. I think that's probably the last question. I know we've got another one. Tom Hawkins. Okay, the KPIs are focused on maintenance. It seems are there ways they will look at tachos?
No, we have KPIs for drivers as well. So we look at your driver's hours. We look at working time directive. We look at how the work is allocated as well. So yes, there are drivers KPIs as well.
Okay, so that answers your question, Tom. Again, I'll leave it a few more seconds just to see if anybody else has any other questions. Obviously, it's a great opportunity. We're on Jenny Gerard. Okay, if you fall outside the KPIs, at what point would any action be taken, or is it more a conversation about how to improve?
Definitely the latter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always a conversation to begin with, of course. I'll be honest with you, we don't have a huge issue with KPIs with operators. If they what we call trigger on 1 month, which means they failed those KPIs, we'll have a conversation, and 9 times out of 10, well, more than that, about 99% of the time, they don't trigger again on the following month. If, of course, there is a pattern or there's an issue, we may need to have a bit more of a formal meeting, only really so all the interested parties can get together and find out a solution and a way forward. This is very much a support network. It's a partnership. This isn't us finding issue and kicking you out the scheme. It's not like that. It's working with you, not against you as an operator. So there's no said rule in terms of, oh, well, you triggered in January and then you've triggered in May. So that's it. You've now got a formal warning. It doesn't work like that. It depends on what the KPI is, whether or not it's something that reasonably you can get over in a short period of time, or whether or not it's a larger issue. For instance, if your maintenance provider has retired and you've gone to a new maintenance provider and they're not great, and you need to you haven't got any other options in terms of where you are geographically in the country. So you need to work with them and maybe us have a word with them as well. That may take a little while to improve. So there's no kind of set time frame for it, to be honest with you. It will depend on what the KPI is and what the reasons are behind it.
Okay. All right, again, any more questions? If people could just post them now. I'm coming to the end of this session now. Okay. I think we'll give it just 10 more seconds, and then if anybody else has a question, please ask it now. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Okay, great. Right, excellent. Well, thank you again for your time. I think we've had quite a few interesting questions there, which were well answered. If anyone has a question from the audience following this session, please get in contact with us. We'll happily answer any queries, any questions you have related to this subject, or AssetGo as a system. There is as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a survey to finish off. If you could give us your thoughts on the session, it would be much appreciated. But yeah, that's it. And thank you, everyone, and thank you. And have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Bye.